You have access to more entertainment than any human being in the entire history of civilization. Every song ever recorded, every movie ever made, billions of videos, games, articles, and conversations, all inside a device that fits in your pocket. So why are you still bored? Not just bored, deeply, uncomfortably, restlessly bored. The kind where you pick up your phone, scroll for 20 minutes, put it down, and then immediately pick it up again, because somehow, with all of that, nothing felt like enough. That feeling has a name, and neuroscientists are only now beginning to understand what it actually means, and why ignoring it might be one of the most costly things modern humans are doing to themselves. Let me introduce you to two people. The first is Alex. Alex lives in 2026. He wakes up at 7 in the morning, and before his feet even touch the floor, his phone is already in his hand. He scrolls through short videos for a few minutes, switches to a social media feed, checks a few messages, watches a clip someone sent him, then puts the phone down. 2 minutes pass. He picks it up again, switches apps, watches something else. His brain is moving fast, constantly fed, constantly stimulated. And yet he feels hollow. Something is missing, but he cannot name it. Now meet the second person. We will call her Kara. Kara does not live in 2026. Kara lives 10,000 years ago in a small community of early humans near what is now the eastern Mediterranean coast. She wakes up at sunrise. There is no phone, no screen, no background noise from a television, just the sound of wind, birds and the slow crackle of a dying fire. She sits, and for a long stretch of time there's absolutely nothing to do. So what happens next is extraordinary. Her mind begins to wander. She stares at the bark of a nearby tree and notices a pattern she had never seen before. She picks up a piece of charred wood and drags it across a flat stone, just to see what happens. She starts thinking, really thinking about where the animals go when the rains come. She imagines a better way to carry water. She experiments, makes mistakes, tries again. She does not realize it, but she is being creative. Here's what is actually happening inside both of these brains, and this part is backed by real neuroscience. When your mind has nothing urgent to process, it activates what researchers call the default mode network. This is a collection of brain regions that lights up specifically during rest, daydreaming, and unstructured thinking. It was first mapped in detail by neuroscientist Marcus Reichel at Washington University in the early 2000s, and at first, scientists thought it was basically the brain idling, doing nothing useful. They were completely wrong. Research over the past 2 decades has shown that the default mode network is where some of the most important cognitive work happens. It is where you process your emotions and consolidate memories. It is where you make connections between ideas that seem unrelated on the surface. It is where you imagine the future, reflect on past experiences, and develop your sense of who you are. It is, in short, the engine of human creativity and self-understanding. And here's the critical part. It only fully activates when you're not actively consuming something. Every time you reach for your phone to escape a moment of boredom, you are interrupting that process. You are pulling the plug on the engine right as it is warming up. Psychologist Sandy Mann at the University of Central Lancashire ran a fascinating experiment on exactly this. She gave participants a deliberately boring task, copying phone numbers from a directory by hand, and then immediately asked them to complete a creative challenge. That group significantly outperformed a control group that had not done the boring task first. The boredom had primed their creative thinking. It had forced their minds inward, and that inward movement produced something real and usable. In a separate line of research, journalist and podcast host Manoush Zomorodi documented what happened when thousands of people deliberately stopped filling every idle moment with their phones. She called it the Bored and Brilliant Project. What she found, drawing on cognitive science, was that mind-wandering, the kind that happens when you're genuinely bored, is directly linked to your brain's ability to generate original ideas, solve complex problems, and access deeper self-awareness. The data was consistent. Boredom, when you sit with it instead of escaping it, is cognitively productive. Now think about what that means for Kara, and for every human being who lived before the age of smartphones. For the vast majority of human history, boredom was not optional. There were simply periods of time when there was nothing immediate to do. No task, no crisis, no entertainment. And those periods, researchers now believe, were not wasted time. They were when the human brain did its deepest work. Anthropologist and evolutionary biologist Richard Wrangham has written extensively about how early human cognitive development was shaped not just by challenges, but by the quiet spaces between challenges. The brain needed downtime to process, to integrate, to imagine those idle hours around a fire, or waiting out a rainstorm, or watching the horizon. Those were not empty moments. They were the moments when language developed, when art was invented, when tools became more sophisticated, when stories were born. Boredom, in the most literal evolutionary sense, helped build the human mind. Back to Alex. Here is what is happening in his brain that he does not realize. Every time he picks up his phone and starts scrolling, his brain releases a small pulse of dopamine, the neurotransmitter associated with reward and anticipation. Not a big hit, but a reliable one, just enough to make the behavior feel worth repeating. Neuroscientist Anna Lembke, director of the Stanford Addiction Medicine Dual Diagnosis Clinic and author of the book Dopamine Nation, explains that modern technology, social media, short-form video, infinite scroll is specifically engineered to exploit this system. The variability of the reward is the key. You never know which scroll will give you something interesting, funny, or emotionally stimulating. That unpredictability is exactly what makes the behavior compulsive. And over time, the brain adjusts, it raises its baseline. What used to feel interesting no longer does. You need more stimulation just to feel neutral. And the quiet, the natural stillness that used to be the starting point for creativity starts to feel unbearable. This is why Alex is bored, not because he has too little, but because his brain has been recalibrated to require constant input, and anything less than that now registers as discomfort. Kara does not have this problem. Her brain has no baseline of digital stimulation to compete with. So when her mind wanders during a quiet morning, it does not feel like deprivation. It feels natural. And that wandering mind eventually produces something. A new idea, a new tool, a new story to tell around the fire. The difference between Alex and Kara is not intelligence. Their brains are biologically almost identical. Modern humans and people who lived 10,000 years ago have essentially the same brain structure and cognitive capacity. The difference is what they do with a quiet moment. Alex treats it as a problem to be solved. Kara treats it as a space to be used. So what do you do with this? The research points in a clear direction, and it does not require you to throw away your phone or live like a prehistoric forager. It just requires one small deliberate shift. Let yourself be bored sometimes, on purpose. When you're waiting somewhere for a coffee, for a train, for a meeting to start, try not reaching for your phone. Just sit, look around, let your thoughts drift without directing them. This is not wasted time. According to the research of cognitive psychologist Mary Helen Imordino-Yang at the University of Southern California, this kind of unstructured internal reflection is essential for developing moral reasoning, empathy, and long-term identity. It is not nothing, it is foundational. Start small, 2 minutes, 5 minutes, let the discomfort arrive without immediately escaping it. You will likely notice something interesting. First comes restlessness, then if you wait through it, something else arrives. A thought you had not expected, a memory, an idea, a question you want to explore. That is your default mode network, doing what it was built to do. Here is the real takeaway, the one that should stay with you after this video ends. Every single tool, invention, story, and discovery that shaped human civilization came from a mind that was given space to think. The wheel, the alphabet, the scientific method, the novel, the symphony, none of these came from a mind that was endlessly consuming someone else's content. They came from minds that were quiet enough, bored enough, free enough to generate something entirely new. You have that same brain, the same hardware Kara had, the same default mode network, the same capacity for wandering, wondering, and creating. The only question is whether you give it the conditions it needs to work. Boredom has not changed. The way we respond to it has, and that response, that reflex, to immediately escape into a screen is costing us something we do not even notice we are losing. The next time that uncomfortable quiet arrives, try something different. Do not fill it, sit in it, let your mind go wherever it wants to go, because that space, that seemingly empty, frustrating, restless space, is not a gap in your day. It is where you begin.